Operation Epic Fury used direct military action. The US Navy blockade of the Strait of Hormuz operates through control. Ships, massive $200 million oil tanker. Vessels the size of 3 football fields are seconds away from entering the Strait of Hormuz. And then they turn around. No one fires, no one intercepts, just a silent retreat. What scared them? This is the reality for the world's most desperate rogue vessels, the Iranian-linked Ghost Fleet. These ships are suddenly turning back before they even reach the entrance of the strait, and it isn't because they are being chased by a visible fleet. They are running from a secret system deployed by the US Navy, the US Navy blockade. Today, we are breaking down exactly how this invisible net is working and why these tankers are now terrified of being even detected. This is the story of how 21 miles of water was transformed into an autonomous engagement web, where every ship is vetted by the laws of physics and data long before a single sailor is ever seen. To understand why these ships are retreating in fear, you first have to understand the logic of the anonymity trap. For decades, the Iranian Ghost Fleet survived by staying in the shadows. They moved illicit oil using dark activities, specifically AIS spoofing. AIS, or the Automatic Identification System, is essentially a GPS-based radio that tells the world a ship's name, location, and destination. Ghost tankers would simply turn this off to vanish, or broadcast fake coordinates to look like they were docked in a safe country, while they were actually loading oil at forbidden Iranian piers. In the old world of naval warfare, this worked because the ocean is vast. With over 2,000 vessels crossing this choke point every week, a dark ship was just a needle in a massive haystack. But in 2026, the US Navy flipped the script. In this secret system, anonymity is no longer a shield, it is a targeting vector. By using the AI-driven drones of Task Force 59, the Navy now creates a multi-modal fingerprint for every single hull in the region. Think of this like a digital DNA test for ships. Even if a tanker has its radio turned off and its lights killed, it cannot hide its acoustic signature. Every ship engine and propeller has a unique vibration fingerprint that the Navy's underwater sensors can identify from miles away. Combine that with thermal displacement, the heat a massive engine dumps into the water, and magnetic profiles measured by satellites, and you realize there is nowhere to hide. If a ship hasn't completed a verified digital handshake with the Navy's regional server before hitting the 5-mile decision point, it is instantly flagged as a non-compliant threat. This is where the system moves from observation to active deterrence, using what are known as active denial systems. The Navy has effectively weaponized the environment of the ship's bridge itself. The first tool in this arsenal is the LRAD, or Long Range Acoustic Device. This isn't just a loudspeaker, it is a directed energy weapon. It beams a 150 decibel directional tone directly at the tanker's bridge. To put that in perspective, that is 50 times louder than a police siren and enough to cause a temporary threshold shift. Inside the bridge, this sound doesn't just hurt your ears, it creates literal physical nausea, vertigo, and a total loss of motor control by vibrating the fluid in the human inner ear. It becomes physically impossible for a crew to steer a 300,000-ton vessel through a narrow channel when they can't even stand up. If a captain is fanatical enough to try and push through the pain, the Navy escalates to ocular interrupters, commonly called laser dazzlers. These are high-intensity green lasers that white out the bridge's optical sensors and the captain's vision without causing permanent blindness. Think about the stakes here. You are navigating a VLCC tanker, a vessel so massive it takes 2 full miles of ocean just to come to a stop. If you are blinded for even 10 seconds, or if you are doubled over with sonic nausea, you are going to run aground and wreck a $100 million asset. The US Navy isn't stopping these ships with a wall of steel. They are stopping them by making the very act of navigation a physical impossibility. This is the first layer of the blockade, and as we're about to see, the pressure only gets higher from here. But what happens if a captain is a true fanatic? What if he is willing to grit his teeth through the sonic pain and navigate through the blinding green glare of the lasers? This is where the US Navy stops targeting the crew and begins a direct assault on the ship's own brain. This layer of the blockade is known as virtual fencing, and it is executed by the most advanced electronic warfare platform in existence, the EA-18G Growler. These specialized aircraft don't just jam a ship's radar with noise, they perform a high-level protocol called coherent navigation spoofing. In simple terms, the Navy is rewriting the ship's reality. Here's how it works. Every commercial vessel on Earth needs P&I insurance, protection, and indemnity to function. Think of it as the ultimate third-party liability cover. Without it, a ship becomes a floating liability that no port will ever allow to dock, because any accident could cause billions in uninsured damages. By linking the Navy's tracking system directly to the digital ledgers at Lloyd's of London, the blockade goes financial. The second a ghost tanker is flagged as non-compliant for ignoring orders, its insurance is deleted in real time. The captain isn't just facing a vessel anymore. He's facing a billion-dollar lawsuit and the total bankruptcy of his company. It's a secondary layer of the US Navy blockade of Strait of Hormuz that never sleeps, even when there isn't a single American sailor in sight. When all other layers are ignored, the Navy reveals the final, most terrifying deterrent: the shadow. For every tanker attempting to run this digital gauntlet, there is almost certainly a Virginia-class nuclear submarine sitting silently 100 feet beneath its hull. As a final warning, the Navy paints the tanker with a specific sonar frequency, an active ping that creates a vibration through the entire ship. This is the Navy's way of knocking on the door to let the captain know, we are already under you. If the ship continues to resist, the system escalates to the engagement phase. This doesn't necessarily mean sinking the vessel. In 2026, the Navy uses surgical interdiction. The first option is VBSS, which stands for Visit, Board, Search, and Seizure. This involves high-speed interceptor boats and MH-60R Seahawk helicopters, dropping elite Navy SEALs or Coast Guard teams directly onto the tanker's deck to seize control of the bridge by force. If the situation is too high risk for a boarding party, the Navy moves to kinetic disabling. Using sling-launched drones, they can strike the ship's rudder or propellers with pinpoint accuracy. This leaves the massive tanker dead in the water, unable to steer or move, all without spilling a single drop of oil or breaching the hull. This is the power of the US Navy blockade web, a massive interconnected digital nervous system. It begins with the E-2D Hawkeye, an advanced eye in the sky that circles miles above, acting as the brain of the operation. The Hawkeye links everything together, from the Virginia-class submarine below to an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer on the horizon. For long-range threats, the system can task the destroyer to paint the ship with fire control radar, the final step before launching an SM-6 missile, a weapon capable of hitting targets at extreme distances with hypersonic speed. For mid-range engagement, the network can call in the surgical firepower of an Apache gunship or the devastating precision of an A-10. And for close-in defense, the Navy utilizes the CIWS Gatling guns, or the Helios, a high-energy laser system that can melt drone sensors and engine components in seconds. The US Navy blockade of Strait of Hormuz is proving that you don't need to sink a fleet to win a war. By draining the Iranian regime of $435 million every day, this US Navy blockade of Strait of Hormuz is now considered more devastating than the thousands of bombs dropped during Operation Epic Fury. It's a chilling reality where the US Navy blockade of Strait of Hormuz can essentially delete a country's economy without firing a single shot. Does this US Navy blockade of Strait of Hormuz prove the era of massive sea battles is over? Or have we just built a system of total control that can never be turned off? Drop your take in the comments. I'm reading every one. Share this video with someone who needs to see the future of war and subscribe for more. Thanks for staying until the very end.